There it is. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sunday Night Teacher Talk, because it is Sunday and we're going to talk some teachery stuff. So I don't really have an introduction for the show ever. You think 8 years in, I'd have like a way I start, but it's just nonsense every single time. So in this week, I feel like it is. So look, if you have a question, you can just go ahead and drop it in now. We'll get to the questions as quick as they come. And if you know what a super chat is and you want to make sure that your question comes in, you can also do it that way. We read those first. Anyway, trying to think about this idea that it's some of you have been in school for a couple of months, some of you for just a couple of weeks. And it's the initial excitement sometimes wears off. Kids start showing who they really are. So I always think, when I would work with someone new, that the first couple of days of school, they're like, I think I got this. There's no classroom management issues. We're not really seeing any problems in my class. I'm like, oh, that's because no one's found their voice yet. They're measuring you almost to see. It's like Jaws messing with the boat before he just goes in for the kill. So thinking about that, that's a lot of what the first few days of school feels like. And then you get to this point in the school year where it's like, okay, what are we doing? What's happening right now in school? How do I deal with this particular issue? And so that's a lot of what we're hoping to do here. Some of you have answers. Put those in the chat. Please reach out to people, connect with them. Even if it's outside the show, continue the conversation in the Facebook group if that feels safer to you or whatever. But it is trying to show up for one another so that we can go in to that work that we have to go do tomorrow, feeling ready for the job, and that this isn't daunting. And I think it's important. This is something I tell my students, something I tell my own children, something I tell myself sometimes, is that the shift you need can sometimes feel like it has to be this monumental shift in your classroom or in yourself. It's all so overwhelming. So you must need an overwhelming solution. But here's a metaphor for you that I just made up. No matter how big the balloon is, it only takes a little pin to change everything, right? And so if the solution is the pin, I don't need the solution to be enormous. It is just enough to offset that feeling so you can see things clear, so you can see things for where they are. And sometimes the best way to get that insight is by hearing somebody else say, even if it's something you already know, it's just someone else. So asking that question, getting it sort of posed back to you in a different way, or looked at in a different, hearing a voice other than the voice just that's in your head all the time. So that's what we're trying to do.
Shifts, right? Your perspective, someone else's perspective is a little bit different. And when they respond back, it can shift how you're thinking or viewing something. And sometimes it's just that small, you always say small shifts and tweaks that make the biggest impact. Yeah. It's not a huge overhaul. And with that, do you want to tell people what I have available?
The workshop?
Yes.
Yeah. So for those of you that I realize this because it's been asked. I get asked more about classroom management than anything else. Close second is probably work-life balance, but it's mainly classroom management. With that being said, last year we did a 4-part training workshop based on classroom management, the ultimate guide to classroom management. I think we called it last year. It was supposed to be an hour each. It's over. This thing is over 4 hours long, which is good because there's tons in there, from everyday seemingly trivial questions like, can I go to the bathroom? Why do I have to do this? That kind of stuff, to dealing with policies, procedures in your classroom. Even if you already started the year, even if you already have them, I'm going to show you how to make these little tiny shifts that are going to have you connecting with your students, have you connecting with their parents, have you connecting with your staff, how to create a circle of influence at your school, how to really, really, really do this work that when your classroom management is handled, it changes you can actually teach. And most of you don't get the chance. Most of you struggling with classroom management can't teach because you're too busy putting out little fires all the time, right? It's too much. It would be like if your band also had to be a bouncer. It's just not going to work. So to that end, we created this workshop. We took what we did last year and had those recordings, revamped all of the resources for it, and those are now available for purchase. I recommend, unless you got it like that, reach out to your school, see if they'll purchase or put in a purchase request for it. If you don't ask, the answers already know. Our goal on this channel is never to make money off of teachers. That being said, my kids eat a lot and I have to pay my mortgage. However, the goal is to, I'd rather you send, your school already has funds that are allocated already to professional development. So giving that to them, and that's no matter where your school is, right? This is like a largely, even my charter school had this. So send that along to them, see if they'll make the purchase for you, so that you can get the VIP and get all the resources and stuff too. But that's there. We created that for y'all to have that sort of leadership over your classroom.
All right, you ready
for
some questions?
Hit me with some questions.
All right.
With that, here's an hour worth of free professional development that I wish that you could just put in for it. I know people do. Do you know that?
Oh, Sunday Night Teacher
Folks
Talk.
put it for Sunday Night Teacher Talk, and folks have gotten their schools to okay watching my videos as professional development.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's awesome.
All right, Mr. Bork's school, cool. Mr. Bork's school.
Mr. Bork's school, yeah.
Okay, is up next or up first, asking, how do you avoid getting sick at the beginning of the school year when summer turns to fall? Cough drops, vitamin C, supplements, nutrition. How is your physical health now that you're in New Mexico?
So my physical health is as best that it has ever been, but I think that is I think it's because I figured out me. So this is a great question. And even as a teacher, I shook at the very least every single hand that came through my classroom. So that was 150 hands every single day. And then constantly getting hit up, hugs, all that stuff in the hallway. And we know kids are gross. I mean, I teach 9th grade in high school. I swear they're still disgusting, right? Kids are gross. So all the times you sneezed into your arm and then you gave me a hug. So I know it's on me. So one thing I do is I don't have OCD. There are some tendencies of some of that. Not I won't label myself as that, but like there are some tendencies of like, I don't know.
Germophobia.
Germs are
You're conscious of
them. But I don't go like over the top, and I don't think you can and be a successful teacher because you would just think about that all day. So the reason I bring that up is because I once had a friend who was a nurse that said most people can avoid getting sick if they've just stopped touching their face, like for any reason. So when you're in class, you're not sitting like this, you're not rubbing your eyes with a hand that you haven't washed or your nose or something like that. Just got it. So that's one thing. I do not ever touch my face. I also wash my hands regularly enough, right? And this is even a pre-COVID thing. This is something I do. Like in between, if I'm just walking by the bathroom, I just wash my hands. I don't make a big deal of it. I don't use hand sanitizer or anything like that. But the other thing is if I feel any symptom of not a feeling off, right? You get that little bit of off feeling beforehand. I make sure that I get as much sleep as possible that night. I also take, we have these horse pill vitamin C's. I take like 2 or 3 of those suckers because apparently you can't take too much vitamin C. Your body will just pee it out. Vitamin C works better when you take selenium with it, and it also works better if you do it with food because it's fat soluble. Well, actually, vitamin C is water soluble, but I think selenium is fat soluble. Taking them together, that alone, get a hot shower, the vitamin C, and especially the sleep really, really, really helps me out. I've done things like, I think sweating stuff out, like if you can go to a sauna, if you can go to do something hot, like that hot yoga really helped me a lot. I don't know what it is. For my body, it is helps me kind of sweat stuff out. I don't know. I am just envisioning that whatever that is of me getting cooked. And then it's always going to come down to, for me, my nutrition, light exercise, and getting enough sleep. The older I've gotten, the more, and I don't get sick, gang. Like, I can count on one hand in the last 15 years. I got the flu 15 years ago. How do I know that? Because my daughter was just born and my wife is stuck with both kids because I had the flu. I got COVID, and not bad. I had like I had worst sore throat in my life, but I got COVID when everyone was getting COVID in 2020. And that's it. I get like a mild cold every year or something like that. So like, this is someone that doesn't get sick. Don't touch my face, wash my hands fairly regularly in that regimen if I feel like something's coming up. But I really think that it's your sleep and your nutrition have so much to do with your health. Those are things I really try to dial in to make sure that I'm as healthy as humanly possible. And I do that by getting blood work. I get like, my wife sends me to a doctor who I'm fairly sure may be a vampire because he takes so much blood. But then they do these really in-depth tests and you find out like all the things that you're short on. And then they give you a vitamin regimen for like $9 million. So I just started drinking smoothies and eating kale.
I was going to say, not that we take all those vitamins because they are just too expensive.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest tip is the not touching your face, which is incredibly hard.
Yeah.
I like try to do this because, it tells me the same thing.
There's something you touching your
and
face
I'm like,
right now.
oh my God, it made me aware of like how much I like have little itches or like twitches or things that I just like touch my nose and eyes. And I'm like, oh gosh, like it made me so aware of them. And I'm not very good at it, but John Lopez also said vitamin D, which if you're like, I'm a chronic low vitamin D and that affects my immune system. So making sure that I take vitamin D regularly for me, but that's all per like blood work.
I just take drops for vitamin D that I got for free. Well, it was not for free. Like I paid for Athletic Greens, but then, and I'll tell you things like Athletic Greens, or we're talking with a brand right now to maybe partner with that has like these little juice shots that help you too.
All right. Tristan is up next asking, how do you reach parents who only have a phone number as a means of contact? They rarely answer and thus their mailbox is often full.
So, or their voicemail is full too, right?
I think that's what they're talking about.
Okay. I thought it meant email.
No, if they only have a phone number,
because your email wouldn't be full. So that's a good question, Tristan. And I think for all of you, like when I do talks and I talk about student engagement, one of the things I really, we go deep on at schools with trainings is connecting with parents. I try to find out from parents, like what's the best way. So sometimes I will send an email, but I'll also send a text. If you're on, like I'll have like you could get like a Google number. So you're not texting from your own phone and you can do it from your computer and stuff like that. So I'll send text out like that, or I'll use an app like WhatsApp. The way I've done that over the years has changed as quickly as technology has changed. So there were years when I had a lot of kids that were on Facebook back in the day. And I had a Facebook group for my class and I would just send out Facebook messages, have my homework on there. I had a class website at one point. I used Twitter at one point and sent messages. So I would just tweet out the homework every day and stuff. But as the tastes change, I got to change with the tastes. And so it's really trying to find the best way for parents. So what you could do, especially for parents that of kids you're concerned, like seriously concerned about, or that seem to be problematic, or like are complain a lot, or they're either not invested and you're worried that that's going to bite you in the butt later, or they're super invested. It is ask them, hey, what's the best way to contact you? Should I don't want to text people, to be honest with you, because some people have a radar for like a good time to text and a bad time. And other people will text you at 5 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, midnight. And they're like, you didn't tell me he had a test. And it's like, I am pretty sure I'm in bed. So this isn't going to happen right now. So I don't like folks, they text me on the weekends and stuff like that. I want folks to be able to reach out should they need to. So it's like trying to figure, I just ask like, what is the thing that works best for you? And try to find a happy medium there. If that doesn't work, the thing I'll do is just send, this is why I use, this is in the classroom management thing too, that we created, but you can just make your own. That wasn't a sales pitch. That part wasn't a sales pitch, but so what I'm saying is using a Friday reflection that students fill out that has a handful of questions from like, what did we learn about this week? What did I do well in? What do I wish I did better in? What is my current grade? What assignments am I missing? Then if a student's failing, they are required to take that document home to their parents and get it signed and bring it back. If they're not failing, they can just take it home, but I don't need to get it back from them, right? And this is a really good way that is like paper in hand. The reason I like the downside of this, of course, is students forget. But I try to come up with systems that help them to not forget. The downside of it is that, or that's the downside. The upside is nobody sends anything home anymore, right? Especially with so many schools going paperless, it stands out. It's like a novelty. So you're not getting 5 forms a week from different teachers. You're just getting a thing every week. And if I can build that into a parent's rhythm, that's Friday, let me see your paper from Reynolds. I know teams that have done this with with all 5 like core classes or 4 core classes. Teachers have done this where students have to record their grades for each class, put what they're missing for each class. On Friday, it gets checked off by a teacher before they leave for the weekend. And then if I can break into the rhythm. So that's the other thing, right? Real quick, gang, is that the reason we don't hear back from parents, that parents don't check Power School or Schoology or whatever your online platform is because they have not created a rhythm. How can you incentivize parents creating a rhythm? So I incentivize it by, I give a, like if you don't bring it back in, now I got to call your parent on Monday. I don't give a grade for that because it's not attached to mastery of the subject matter. So, but I will call your parent on Monday and say, hey, look, your kid's failing and they didn't get this thing signed. I just need to make sure that you know that that's the deal. So then parents know, and I say, I send this home every Friday because I want you to know they can retake things on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the following week, but that's it. And if you don't know, then you don't know, then you can't do it. So it's trying to find incentivizing, building the rhythm for parents. So I'm constantly sending stuff home. So when you get something, it's not like all of a sudden, oh, what's this? Oh, what's this? Reynolds sends something home. Nope. Reynolds sends something home every friggin' week. And so that's what I'm trying to do is find the rhythm.
I feel like, I always make that mistake.
It's to the rhythm of the night. You know what I mean? Dance until the.
I think the texting is really key, or the Facebook, or like going where parents, their attention already is, and they have their phone on them. So if they don't have an email address or they don't ever answer their phone, it's like you limit excuses when there's like an Instagram class account or a Facebook class account or a school account, or you do the texting thing. But I think like the texting that you said, you have to have pretty good boundaries to say like, nope, I'm not going to answer texts between this time, but I will between this time. But a text is going through and they're getting that, like, versus
for most folks. But if you have like a grandmom in your, they're in charge of their grandkids, right? Yeah,
that's different.
The way I want to communicate, it's finding out also for them what works. But then the other thing I've learned too, this is really good. This is really good. I'm about to say something really good. Is walking folks through the sign up process. So when I do back to school night, or if I do parent teacher conferences, I'm going to sit there next to, Miss Willis and be like, hey, all right, so get the WhatsApp app. It's completely free. She's going to download it. I'm going to show her how to set up the account. I'm going to show her what a text is going to look like. I'm going to show her how to respond. That time spent in my conference time is like way more productive than just talking about your kids' grades. Because what we're not talking about is just where they are. We're making a plan for how they can do better. And how do they get better? By having communication and letting them know that we're all on the same page with them as our focus.
John Lopez said, "Have you tried sending a letter via certified mail?"
That would be
That's I feel like
a calligraphy letter from John Lopez to your house. That's a great idea.
I guess if you're really desperate and nothing else is working,
you sign for this.
Certified mail is going to get there. Oh my gosh, it's hilarious. All right, Catherine is up next asking, anyone become nationally board certified? If so, how was the process? I am concerned that it is too stressful along with teaching and work-life harmony.
I have not. However, think anything that's going to take away from having that a level of peace, a level of harmony, I think teachers say yes too fast. I saw this in the Facebook group the other day. Somebody signed up for something. They said yes immediately, which they said is like an ongoing issue for them. And then it sucked. And they were like, how do I get out of doing this? Speak your truth. Like, just let them know, like you're not going to lose your job. And you know that you screwed up. So it hurts a little bit when you screw up, right? It's like banging your knee. So like bang your ego and you'll live. The fastest way out of not saying yes to everything, especially if you're a people pleaser like me, is to say, I really appreciate you asking me that. Can I get back to you tomorrow? I'm going to get back to you tomorrow. Not can I either. I'm going to get back to you tomorrow. Or the old, let me bounce it off my wife or husband or whatever, right? Like, let me ask my dog, whatever it is.
Deferring is the best thing that, like,
because everyone understands that.
Because I am guilty of that all the time. And you told me that you were like, just tell them, like, you'll get back to them. You'll let them know tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because I always want to initially say yes, but then when I think about it, I'm like, oh no, I don't think that's a good idea.
Because we don't always remember our own schedule, but you'll say something to me and I'm like, no, we're doing this though, or we already signed up for this, or we have this going on. And it's like, oh crap, yeah. And I know I most certainly do that. And she'll be like, you can't do that. Or I overcommit in a way where I say, oh, you need this much stuff done? I can have it done in this much time. And she's like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, you'll get these things done today. And I'm like, no, watch. And then I get maybe one more than these things done today. But that's just because I wanted her to be wrong. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So defer as much as possible. But don't ruin your peace and harmony. It's too important. And why? Because it's not just about teaching well, gang. It's about living well. And because you teach better when you're lighter. You teach better when you have less stuff to do. When all you have to do is teach. I'm reading this book right now called 10X is easier than 2X, with the concept that to get 10 times better is so much easier and so much more valuable than just getting twice as good next year. So instead of going, I'm just going to shoot for like a little bit better, it is shooting for the moon and knowing it's what they refer to like as a moonshot. It is so much easier, but they really break that down. And part of that has to do with like, you have to say no to a whole bunch of other stuff so that you can say yes to the thing that's in front of you.
Catherine, if you're not getting any answers about people's personal take on that, ask in the Facebook group.
Yeah, it's a great place to ask too.
Okay, Ruth.
I really have an alfalfa situation going on the back of my head today. I just want to call it out.
Yeah.
Not that anyone notices these things except for me, but
now everybody noticed it.
The problem is I can't see the back of my head when I do my hair.
Okay, Ruth is asking, what are some good ways to incorporate soft skills into any content lesson that will help students embrace skills in class too?
This is an awesome question. I think first you need to identify what those soft skills are. Handful, one or two each time, right? So when I'm thinking of, if we're going to have a class discussion, what does it look like to be an active listener? What does it look like to hold your breath and not just stop listening to someone else, but like think about, like listen to all they're saying? What does it look like to be able to control your tone, right? How many times your kids, how many times your parents tell you it's not what you finish a statement, it's not what you said, and they all know it's how you said it. It is not that when your mom says, "You pick up your shoes, please," and you go, "Yeah," it's like, and then you get smacked in the back of the head. It's not because you go, but I just said, yeah, it's not what you said. It's how you said it. So I'm looking for things that kids can identify with, one, and two, that I know will serve them well in the future. Whether it's clear communication, it is writing things down. It's not just what we're learning, but it's how you learn. It is neatness counts. It's the details. And then, Ruth, I picked maybe a handful of those things to focus on a year, and I go heavy and deep on those things. So neatness is incredibly important to me. I'm not looking for perfection, but if no one can read what you wrote, if what you're handing in looks like you carried to the school in the back of your pocket after it went through the washing machine, like that, I don't want you to get to a job one day and think this is normal. I don't want you to go like do any kind of hand in any professional paperwork one day and it's not, and you don't know how to staple it. So I'm real big on the details for everything, because I want you to at least know what that level of neatness, of organization, of skill looks like. And then should you choose not to use it, that's on you, but it won't be because you don't know how to. Being able to talk to people with a certain tone, being able to be empathetic and sympathetic, and what the difference is. Being able to voice your opinion, to actively listen. There's a handful of things I think of that are important to me every year. And sometimes those change. Like my radar's up trying to feel out what students need. But if it's for a specific lesson, it's like, look over the lesson. What speaks to you? What is it? What's something in this book that is going to stand out that we want to make sure that we are connecting with and looking at and dissecting? It makes what you're learning take on new meaning and important real life skill meaning. And I think that always helps with students.
All right. Paris is up next, asking suggestions for sub plans. I've tried videos, worksheets, assessments, and group projects with mixed results and struggles.
Okay, they have another question, but that's
a separate one.
Yeah, I was making sure it wasn't two-parter. My rule for subs is, one, we're going to learn from the first time. So if kids aren't doing what they need to do the first time, we're going to learn from it. And then the next time you will be 100% held accountable. But it is never asking a sub to teach. It is assigning things that are due that day. You do not get extra time. You do not get the next class for homework or whatever. It has to be handed in at the end. What I'm doing here is minimizing. I don't need the sub to know how to teach, to give out the work. Now, look, to do the work. I'm saying this knowing that I do not teach elementary school. If I taught primary grades, that's a different animal in and of itself. And I have zero, I'll tell you right now, I don't have any idea. Someone else can fill in for me on that one. But if you're teaching subject specific, like you're a history teacher, math teacher, whatever, I give something that is, the kids should, it's not a new concept. It's a review of an older concept or of something we've covered. It's not requiring the teacher to know anything about it. So when I subbed for a science class, it's the only time I ever subbed, and I had no frigging clue. Kids are asking me questions like, I don't know any of this stuff. How the hell am I supposed to know? But if I'm subbing a physics class, right, and I went to school for English, good luck. And you don't want my help anyway. It is, and then it's something that is doable in that class period. I give more than usually what is doable, and then I grade based on what you completed. So it was like, did you go above and beyond and get all done? Great. Did you? And then if you did like most of it, I give a grade for that. Half of it, a grade for that. So I'm not getting super hype on what I'm doing. The other thing I want to be mindful though of too, Paris, is that when teachers aren't there, I find that classes are an exaggerated version of who they are when the teacher's there, when the sub comes in. So if you have a class that's out of control, it's exaggerated amount of out of controlness. If you have a class that is pretty good, they're going to be really good. I want to know from the sub how classes were. Were they loud? Were they doing work? If someone wasn't doing work, can you please just put like a notation next to their name on the thing. You don't have to say anything to them. Like, don't say, I'm going to put this down, write your name next, check next to your name. Just be cool. And so I know, because then I'll see that reflected in the work probably. But the thing I'm looking for is if there's kids that I know there's no way they're paying attention if everybody's talking. If you have a class that's out of control and you're not there, and then we're expecting students with processing disorders, with dyslexia, with ADHD, with any number of other learning differences and disabilities, those students are not going to probably be able to complete that work. And after they do it and hand it in, and they're all anxious and worried about it, the next day, I want kids to come up to me, tell me if you didn't finish and it was because of something, like, what's the story? Advocate for yourself. And I know that Miles has a very hard time paying attention when I'm not there and when other kids are talking and needs a quiet work environment. I will say, okay, either you're exempt from doing this work, or the next time, here's the plan. When I'm not here, you're going to go to this room. You're going to go to the office. You're going to go speak to the secretary at the front desk. And then I'll make arrangements for those certain students. It's not a lot. It's just a few usually. I make the arrangements ahead of time, and so that they can sit in the office with headphones on and do the work, and then it's getting done.
Can I ask another question?
Certainly.
How do you discipline the kids if they get a check mark or whatever, whenever the sub communicates to you that these were your troublemakers in the classroom? How do you handle those?
Because I don't go over, because a lot, you don't know you're not going to be there, right? So it's not something at the beginning of the year I want to say like, hey, look, if I'm ever out this year, wait, you're going to be out? When are you out? Are you out? Are you staying in school all day today? Are you not going to be here tomorrow? It's like, nope, 0. When I come back, let me break it down for you. You are leaving a poor mark on me when you do this stuff. When I'm not here, I want you to think about Reynolds too. Be good. Do the work. If you want to listen to music while you're doing it, that's fine. If you want to work together with someone else, if that the sub says it's cool, then that's fine. Make sure you're getting it done. Because I will give you a 0. 2, I will contact your home. And 3, I will make it more difficult if I'm not here. So I've had kids that can't control themselves, and I have it set up in my school. Like, we have certain people, like in my circle of kind of trust, that's Fokker's reference, in my circle of trust, that if I'm not there, I'll hit up my other friends. I hit up Miss Cho, Mr. Fines, Miss Yonkers, and say, yo, I'm not going to be there. Can you pull Bryce or Tim today for my second period class? Because they're just going to be horrible for the sub. And then they'll go grab them and put them somewhere else. So, but I want to address it immediately. I'm not doing you said and they said and all that stuff. Yo, listen, y'all, because you got to keep each other accountable too. Don't get my class, my name a bad rep because you're acting a fool. And what the example that everyone can understand is when your parents send you to someone else's house or to a grandparent's house and you act a fool, what do they get upset about? You're making me look like we're just running wild in here. And so look out for it. And the other thing I want is I will then pick certain kids to make sure my room's neat. Do not let me come back to a messy room, and do not let the after-school custodial staff have to pick up after your mess. So I have kids that, even though you didn't make the mess, I understand. Can I have like 3 dudes that, like, at the end of the period or end of the day, come in, straighten my desks, pick up trash, make sure things are neat the way that I like them, so that I'm coming back into something that's nice and neat as well. And you'll always have dudes, they'll wear that like a badge of honor. Like dudes like Joe, my stuff was on point. Yeah, but that, like, leverage those relationships. Yeah. And it gives kids a sense of power to be like, you're an active participant in our classroom. So, when I'm not here, like, can y'all just like make sure my room looks tight when I come back in? I don't want to do that to the custodial staff, and I don't want to walk into that mess. I got you, Reynolds. I got you. And I know you didn't make the mess, but can you please help me pick it up? And then I buy them donuts or something like that. And for the price of 2 donuts, I walk into a place of peace that I don't feel overwhelmed with, because there's stuff written all over my board and trash on the floor and, penises all over the desk.
Kids love writing on the board when the teacher's out.
I know. And they waste, and then they'll put your caps back in your expo markers.
Or they're put on crooked, so it's like half dried out.
That's why Reynolds hides his expo markers.
You just leave the yellows out.
I put the yellow lid on the black marker.
All right, our next question is from
Damn.
Paris again. Paris, ask as many questions as you want. It's fine.
No.
How can I support new teachers in my building that are struggling with student behaviors and lack of buy-in from the kids? The behaviors I'm hearing from the kids are upsetting. Pass along our classroom management workshop. For real. Like I have like gone over like I'm the person who makes like the workbooks, and so I've gone over the general admission and the VIP so much, and I'm like, gosh, this is really so helpful. Like, I'm not a teacher, but like it's full of like
it's practical,
small practical relevant steps and like outline in it. And so that's why I say that. It's like not just to sell it to try and make money off of people. It's really practical and helpful. Like,
so I'll say this. Here's the value in that. Whether it's ours or somebody else's.
But give her some actual tangible
tips. But connecting folks with resources that aren't you could be really important too, right? So just one, right? Mm-hmm. That's because as a new teacher, look, we have to remember, teaching is the only job I can think of. And I've used this example a lot of times. I cannot think of another job that you're expected to be great at immediately. What do I mean by great? That you're held to the same level of expectation as a teacher that's been doing this for 30 years. You still have the same tests. You still have the same lesson plans, the same amount of work. Like the expectation is there. Our kids cannot all receive Fs because you're new. That being said, sometimes giving outside resources help. So whether that's mine or it's somebody else's book or whatever, like it's those sorts of things help. The other thing I think is attention. And it's giving folks, it's one, giving them attention. And if they want help, give them help. If they're not asking for it, if I say, hey, can I help you with anything? Can I, if they want advice, I will give it to them gladly. If they're not asking for my advice, I try not to give it. Another thing I heard recently, and I forget where I heard this from, but it was, how are you doing? This person posed this question of like, how are you doing is a pretty useless question. And I don't completely agree with that, because I think that it's identifying, it's saying, I see you. And I'm asking, this is not a rhetorical question, which I'll let folks know. This is not a rhetorical question. I'm really wondering how you are. Like, what's the state of your soul? It is there something I can help with? So are you overwhelmed with your grading? Are you overwhelmed with your seating chart and you feel like you're playing whack-a-mole, you're not sure where to put kids? Can I do something for you? Can I make copies for you? Can I, look, your room's a mess. Can I help you? Like, can we just straighten up these desks real quick? Right. So I'm adding value to your life immediately. The other thing is if I'm willing to ask someone that, so I don't ask, I'll tell you this. I do not ask all new teachers if they need help. And this is horrible, but there are some teachers that I see the way they are with students. And if they like, I have to feel it out, right? Because there's some folks that they're not, I can feel it in my heart. They're just not for me. It's not my assignment. There are other folks who might be horrible, or they might be just shy of greatness, that I will talk to. And if I get that feeling that this is like I pray it out, or I just feel it out, I listen to my intuition. It is knowing that when I speak to an adult, I have to be willing to go full tilt for them. So that's what I'm feeling out too. And what part of what that might look like is, so you're having a problem with Bryce. So you have Bryce and Tim in the same class, and holy crap, that is enough for anybody's hair to just turn white. That's what happened to me. I had them in the same class. When do you have lunch tomorrow? Okay. 5th period. Great. I'm going to come in 5th period, and we're going to sit down with those two, and we're going to talk about what's going on. So what I'm doing is I'm leveraging my relationship that I already have with Bryce and Tim, sitting down with this teacher, and we're going to figure out what's going on and how things can get better. Because with your behavior now, no one succeeds, and it's problematic. And so what this is showing is Bryce and Tim, who I have a relationship with, maybe a very good relationship with, that I'm willing to speak up for this teacher, because y'all need to know that this person is someone I'm riding for. This is someone that I think kids should respect every teacher, but this is somebody that I think is incredible and that y'all got wrong. That you got it twisted that you think you can act like this in class. So I'm willing to have that conversation, and that's one of the things I want teachers to know, is that you can become part of this like circle that I have in my school that is, it's not exclusive because we're not excluding anyone necessarily, but it is the folks that like are my ride or dies at school. So that's one of the ways that I kind of like do that there are a couple of ways that I kind of handle that. But know that ultimately their success is based on their efforts and not yours either. It's something that it's hard. It is hard, but it doesn't have to be hard and alone. It can be hard and together. Like, I can't do a push-up for you. You got to do it. You got to build the confidence. You got to build the charisma. You got to build the connection. But you got to do it. But I can help coach you along if you would like.
There's so much in, and I only realize this from your workshops, like there's so much in classroom management that's not just like managing the behavior when it pops up. There's like a ton of other stuff that like connects all of that to work seamlessly together.
It's because it's so much more about you than it is about kids, because you have to be the one.
It's not even just about you. I although I agree, I think that it is, but it's also about like how you run your classroom. Is it efficient? Are you clear in how you talk? Like your rules and expectations, are you consistent? Like there's so many
those are you things, right? Like you have to be consistent.
Yes, but I also think of the flow of your classroom and the structure and how it's set up. Like that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
On top of the you.
Yeah.
It's both.
But if you're not organized, if you're not consistent, if you haven't been needed to be consistent in your life, you got away with.
I can imagine. I can just see. I can't even imagine me being in a classroom and being a teacher. Like how there's so many things. Like this is why it's so difficult for new teachers. Like it is. There's so many things to like pay attention to and to work on and to do. It's a lot.
Bottom line is,
I mean, you can do it.
They can do it.
Sure, because there's a lot of successful teachers.
Somebody else has done it, which means you can do it. Right? We're not talking about running a 4-minute mile here. We're talking about like, it can feel like that, but if someone else has done it, many, many, many more people that are equal or might even have less ability than you have done this before, which means you can do it. It's just figuring out how to do it. And once you figure out how to do it, then it's like, oh, okay, like I can, but it's that newness that's always so difficult. And that's what makes it's picking it up out of the mud.
It is.
But once it's out of the mud, you're like, oh, okay, I see what we're doing here.
It is, but I've learned that's for almost everything and anything. Right. Pulling it up out of the mud. Okay, David Marsh is up next asking, I sometimes feel like I've got everything under control, and sometimes I feel like I'm in over my head and wonder why I'm a teacher.
Yes.
How do you cope with the swing and find mental balance?
So, David, I would say, one, you realize the pattern. I had a moment of, I was wildly overwhelmed, not wildly, but I was pretty overwhelmed. I don't really go to wildly too often anymore, but
your wild isn't so wild.
It's not as
wild as it used to be.
But it's so right before we got on today, I have a lot to do today, a lot. And some of it's helping my kids with school, some of it's business stuff, some of it's other personal stuff. And it pissed me off because it's a Sunday and because I want to have family time on a Sunday and not sit here doing homework with my kids and helping them study for tests and all that stuff. But when I remember that this is a moment, I'm having a moment, right? I'm not having a life of this. There are things that happen in moments. And so I have a pain plan in my back pocket. So it happened that I was going to do this, but we had too much, like it was too close to the time to go on. So I'll say this. One of the things is doing Sunday Night Teacher Talk, damn near anything we're going through, it is at least mildly reset by doing Sunday Night Teacher Talk because I'm not thinking about me. I'm just out here helping people, which helps me. So I'll help someone. I'll talk to a friend. I'll take a walk in nature. I'll pet my dog. I have a handful of simple things that are always accessible. It's not like oh crap, I'm in Kansas and I don't have my dog with me. Well, then what else can I do? Can I take a walk? Can I listen to a certain kind of music, right? It is knowing I'm having a moment and that it will not last. It is like getting pummeled by a wave. So surfing, you get pummeled by a wave, and even if it keeps you under, I know that I live in New Jersey. Like I'm not like in Hawaii where this is going to take me down forever. I can come back up from that. Well, it's bigger waves, right? And you have coral reefs and stuff like that. Like it's different. So she's shaking her head at me. So I know I can come back up. That's one. It's just knowing. And when it comes up again, here it comes again. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling whatever it is. This too shall pass. But here's the other thing, David. I have to remember that for the good stuff too. When I'm having a great day, I don't try and minimize it by saying this, but this is not every day. Every day is not awesome. Does a kid tell me they love my class? Does my principal come to me and say, this is exceptional what you're doing? Next week, I might have a lesson where they're like, well, you got to come in the office because we don't even know what the hell's happening. You did so good last week. Everything in my life is like a set of waves coming in. That's part of it. The other part is knowing what I need. So like I said before, it's how have I been eating? If I'm living off of that 1999 Domino's special, bro, I know it affects me. Some people, y'all, when you're 23 years old, you'd be rocking that Domino's every single night. And it's fine. I know that affects me. I know that my sleep affects me. I know that this happened to me the other night, man. We start watching the show Mr. Robot, which I realize I'm super late on. And 2 episodes in, I realized it's not the kind of show I want to watch. And I'm not because it's like bad. I find I'm a better person when I watch lighter hearted stuff. When I don't like shows without happy endings. I've had too much stuff I've had to live through to deal with not happy end. I've had enough non-happy endings in my life that I only like to live on happy endings, and I'll draw strength from that. So I'm mindful of the kind of music that I listen to because I want to pour into me, right? And when I'm pouring in, I want that. I know that's going to come out. So for me, it's being mindful of a lot of stuff like that. It's knowing what are my go-tos. And so, yeah.
I always say it's reminding the track record also. I remind my kids like often.
This is it. Speak.
They'll, my son had friends over just the other night and he was like, right before they came over, he was like, I shouldn't have done this. I'm anxious. This is going to go terrible. And I was like, why would you say that? I said, trust your track record. I said, we've done this many times. I said, and it's always been good. So just even looking back and like, this is why like your method of tracking, and I don't know how you do this for like feeling with school all the time. How you would
rate my life every day on a Google
But
Doc?
how do you do that for like a teach, right? Like, I guess you could break down your day for teaching and then rate those things anyway, but it's a track record, right? Gosh, when we have negative feelings or negative things that are happening, or you're feeling like you said, you're over your head and just completely overwhelmed. It's like, that's not every day. I'm sure it's not. He knows it's not because he said it in there, but it's like, when you're in those moments, you have to refer back to the track record and go, nope. Like this week was great. Last week was great. We had a great week this week. Only one day was terrible. Like, it's remembering that track record, and that helps, I think, like reset your.
So keep that track record, though.
Whatever's happening chemically in all of our brains when we get in that place.
You're right. So that's why there's so much value in doing something like a 5-minute journal, or a bullet diary, or
even just remembering back. Like,
just writing it down. Or just
day.
reminding yourself. Like, but what I'm saying is, the proof is in there.
It
right?
is. If you can't
look and see, like, every day on my calendar, I write 3 things that happened that were great. Then when I go, God, man, my life really sucks.
My
it's horrible.
Like,
I can literally look and go, nope, here's the proof that says otherwise. and what you focus on expands. So when I'm
Yeah.
looking for, like, no, my life is filled with greatness. Right now, though, like, I'm getting pummeled by a wave, but I know this too shall pass. Here's how I'm going to hurry that is by petting my dog, doing some
Filling you
gardening,
up,
climb
yeah.
a tree. Like, I don't know, whatever it is for you. You know, climbing a tree. That's what you like to do.
I had
I'm
other
always
thoughts.
like, what are you
I had other
doing
thoughts
out there?
going on in my head, but I don't think I'm going to say those.
Are you in the tree again?
Leave a tree out back.
If you climb, I just put rock climbing holds on the tree in the backyard because my son with the autism, it affects, and the dyslexia affects his hand-eye coordination. So there's not like just climbing a tree is just not going to happen.
It's not natural.
Now it is. I'll tell you this, hilarious to watch. I'm just saying this too, bro. I hope you hear me. Watching get out of the tree is remarkable. But I put rock climbing holds. If you went in that tree one day and just sat up there, the kids would lose their whole mind.
I can't get down.
Dad,
I wouldn't be able
they'd
to
have
get
the
down.
phones out, taking pictures through the kitchen window.
He does, but he goes and sits in the tree because it brings him peace.
Oh, he does.
Yeah,
Even though he can't get out, even though getting out causes him strife, sitting in the tree, he does love sitting in the tree.
He does. Okay. Gian
Right.
is
Now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Gian is up next asking, how do you handle teaching students in your content area who do not know English and you do not have ML support in the room?
So as an English teacher, I wonder if all right. So one, I acknowledge the situation. Even if I have to get someone that speaks Spanish. So like, I don't know, I just went to Spanish. Like that's the only language other kids speak. But like the students I've dealt with, that is, except for student teaching, I had a kid from China that struggled with English. But everyone else I've ever worked with has been Spanish. One, it's noting it. Hey, look, I know this is a struggle for you. You got to know, one, I realize this. Two, I'm still going to push you. So you're still going to learn. And three, I'll never give up on you. But again, you got to do the work. I can't do it for you, but you will never be alone in it because I only want you to win. Just saying that, you can think kids know it. You can go, yeah, they know that. And I say it over and over and over again. Why? Because leaders are repeaters. So saying it again and again helps kids to remind them that I care about you this much. I'm going to show you. It is then trying to get resources. So, and looking at what you're doing. So like when we would read the Odyssey, I had multiple versions of the Odyssey. I had an audio version of the Odyssey. I had a Kindle version of the Odyssey. I had a graphic novel version of the Odyssey. So I'm looking for alternative text for my students. I am giving them less questions, knowing that asking you to read and write 50 questions for a test is asinine. I try to get a feel for what they can get through, and then we'll adjust it. Using some sort of like text to speech could help students, right? They're already going to start and look, I'm not a master at this. This is just what I like. Everything else is like things I've noticed work in my classroom. But I've noticed that just to laugh to people at other kids, just to get the joke, just to being immersed in English all the time is going to help your English. So I've never found a problem with giving someone something like a text to speech app. So what's the one I looked at today? Speechify. I don't know if they translate. I think it does. Now look, it's a little bit pricey. It's like $140 a year, but it looks rad. And the voice that goes with it is really good. I mean, it looks like an awesome.
They have like celebrities on.
You can have
Mr.
Beast or Snoop read to you. It is remarkable. So
it's really, I guess it's expensive. It's $140 for the year, but that breaks down to like less than $12.
Yes.
For a month.
So it's looking for those alternatives to help kids. And then it's getting your staff on board for how are we helping this person? So if I know that Ruben is raised by his grandparents and his grandparents only speak Spanish at home and he didn't grow up speaking Spanish and now he's in school and he's really struggling and he's going to fall behind, just because someone doesn't speak the language doesn't mean they're dumb. And that kid needs to know that. But they need to know that we're surrounding you with our love and our effort and our willingness to help you out. And then here's what we're going to systematize in class. So all teachers are doing these things. All teachers know about the assistive technology that we're using. All teachers know about these other versions of things that we're going to help out with. Can you, and I've said this before, like I used to have parties after school that would, like I had a group of young women that all were ESL, would all come in after school and then we'd work together. And it was a fun thing that we did every single day because we made it fun. And so it's trying to do that. But then I think the last thing, gang, when you have students, any of them are struggling with something that's difficult, you need them to know that just by virtue of them struggling, how much stronger it's going to make them. That when I talk to my son about having severe dyslexia and how it takes him 10 times, literally 10 times as long to do a given assignment as it takes anybody else in the class, that his ability will rise eventually. He will figure out how he learns and how to get stuff done in a more normal time frame. What those other students will not have on him is to be able to work as hard as he does. He's learning to work hard for something that he wants. And so when your ability to master English rises, not only did that grow up with you, but your ability to do hard stuff is going to put you ages ahead of everybody else because you learned how to do stuff and have it be hard and not give up. And so it's like Ryan Holiday talks about, the obstacle is the way. Like you're growing in two areas where everybody else is just kind of maybe sort of growing in one.
I love that. Liz in the comments said that's what she does. She's an MLELA teacher. So she said sentence starters, allowing use of home language, word banks, visuals, chunking text. She said there's so much that can be done with the right support.
Yeah.
So she offered, Gian, maybe you guys should connect. I don't know if in the Facebook group you're both in there or whatever, but she's offering some support and ideas to help you. So
let me say this real quick, because I think this gets twisted too, and I really want to make sure that folks get it, especially when you're newer, or if you haven't if you haven't had a kid that was dyslexic, let's say. Looking at so-called disabilities as like we're dumbing things down for kids. So like, I don't want to take too many answers off, or I don't want to give them less questions, or I don't want to give them more time, or all these sorts of things that aid kids. It is no different than, it's like, we don't put glasses on some kids and go, wait a minute. You need to learn without those glasses. We don't put students that, if a student has a hearing device and say, listen, take that out. Like, we're not giving you extra anything to be able to learn. Like, take that out of your ear. It is no different. And I'm not trying to overly simplify something or generalize here, but it is giving kids the resources that they need. Because what happens otherwise is we crush students, right? Especially with things like dyslexia, where 1 in 5 students, 20% of the population, have dyslexia. Most of that is undiagnosed. And so when we're not giving services and giving tools for kids to do their own learning, we're not giving them answers, but instead what we're doing is saying, look, you're in 3rd grade or 9th grade, and and you should be able to do this. It's the same thing as someone sending you to the gym and saying at your age, you should be able to bench press. The average person should be able to bench press this much. And then going, we're not taking any weight off. I'm not going to spot you. Just do it. Like, just pull yourself up.
Push harder.
Yeah. Read more. And then you won't have dyslexia anymore. It is.
Which was literally what someone told me once.
A specialist told us one time. It is helping kids to not have their souls crushed, to enter into it as they can, and then ramping it up. pushing kids, yes. Not crushing kids is the answer there. So I'll get off my soapbox now and keep going.
It's a good soapbox to be on, though.
All right. You got one more?
Yes.
Because we're at an hour.
Yes.
And I have
Keys teacher. Oh, yeah.
And homework and tests and all the other crap I was talking about. So hit it.
Keys teacher. Oh, wait. Before we even do that, man, teachers don't give tests on Monday. Like,
yeah.
Why?
That's what we're dealing with right
tests
now.
on Monday?
No, don't do tests on Monday.
Okay.
Retakes on Monday? Fine. Tests, I do them on Friday.
It's gone.
Yeah.
It's lost.
Wait, we had a test today? You didn't tell us? You didn't even tell us. So stupid. I'm not doing it.
Okay, Keys teacher. How do you keep grading down as an English teacher? Feeling pretty overwhelmed, especially with keeping up with late work / emails from parents about missing work.
All right, so one, let's start with, so I systematize what I'm grading, and I don't grade everything for everything. So if I am grading journals, I have found that waiting until the end of the marking period when journals are due is a terrible idea, because I have all these kids that didn't do a whole bunch of them, and now they have to catch up. I have a whole ton of grading to do. I found for me that, especially for short journal entries, I grade them on a point scale. So like 1 to 4. 4 is great. 1 sucks. 2 and 3 somewhere in the middle, right? I know what I'm grading for. So I'm grading for my lower end kids. It's still like capitalization, punctuation, things like that. Correct use of the be verb or whatever, right? Basic sentence structure. For older students, I might be really honing in on like comma splices, or like there's more nuance, but the kids know what I'm looking for every time. So I'm going simple and deep on things instead of wide and complex. Even on an essay, I'm never grading for more than a handful of things. I'm not grading for all the things, right? So and this is hard for me as an English teacher, to read something that could be better or isn't quite right, but that's not what I'm grading for on this one, right? I'm grading for this. So that is one thing that stops me from having to sit there. I'm not poring over something like it's an edit for someone's book. I am looking for these certain things and realizing once we master these skills, then we will level up and master the next skills and the next and the next. So we don't have to do all the things right now. We will do all the things we need to do by the end of the year, though. The other thing is systematizing how I grade. So can some things, like, does a test have to be, I know people there's a feeling that like, all right, if it's a test, it's got to be like 75 questions. I think that if I ask, if I do vocab section on my test, if I do a handful of multiple choice questions on my test, so no more than 20. If I do a close reading activity where I'm asking maybe 10 questions, so you're reading a small passage or like a page of something, and then these questions are going to be like, I ask certain things about that. And an essay, that's far more than enough. I don't allow late work to go past a certain, so I don't do late work at all, unless it's a specific kid with a specific situation. But even if I did, there's a hard out. So what I would, if I was doing late work, if I had to, I would make it the same time that my tests are due. So, because work leads to you doing well in the assessment. And so after the assessment, it's kind of like, who cares if you're learning this now? Like we're moving on to the next thing. So my tests are on Fridays. I try to have those grades back to you by Monday when you walk in, that you can then retake that test Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of that week. If you have a special circumstance, you're not in school, you can make a plan for later in the week, but those are very seldom given. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, before school, during lunch, after school. So it's on your time and you're coming in to retake it. I then give you whatever you got on the retake. So if you do worse on the retake, you will get a worse grade in the grade book. I do not give you the better of the two. Why? Because some kids like shrug off that extra. They just take it to I'm just going to take it in just to see what I get. I'm not doing that, bro. You're wasting my time. And so that kind of pushes kids to study a little bit more. I then offer tutoring before school, during lunch, and after school every single day. So you can come in and I'll go over stuff with you. I try and help you to get better. Like I'll be a part of that, active part of that process, but that helps too. So I'm systematizing what I do. So I grade journals every day. As soon as my prep comes up, I do a quick. I systematize how I put them in my grade book. So I will have students, they number their pages on the top corner. So every page, so I'm not alphabetizing them. I have everyone sitting in alphabetical order. So now you're in alphabetical order. Each desk has a number. Students put that number at the top corner of their desk so I can put them in order quickly, or have a student put them in order for me. Sometimes I'll have a trusted student who's an older grade sit next to me. Yo, read these grades off so I can put them into the grade book. So I'm trying to find these short ways that I can start to shave time off of my grading. I also grade certain times of the day when I know that's quiet in my classroom. I input grades at certain times of the classroom. So, and I'm grading for less stuff. Every single activity doesn't need to get a grade. Sometimes I just grade it for completion. So if we're doing like a vocab review, were you participating or not? Right? Like I don't need to grade it. So I'm giving myself less work to do. And I'll tell you this, every once in a while, I've said this before, I say it proudly, you can just chuck an assignment. Not that every assignment's not going to be the straw that broke the camel's back. And when you have a mountain of work, it's like, dude, just having that reset for you and knowing going forward, I don't have to give all these things. Like I don't read every study guide for every single answer. I basically skim it. Did you have basically the right answers? Okay, this looks pretty right. We're going to go over it in class anyway. Make sure that your answers are right. But I don't waste my time with stuff like that. I'm checking assessments and I'm checking things that I know need to be checked. So, and not feeling like I have to check everything all the time.
I hate the chucking assignments. It hurts my heart, but I get it.
But it doesn't mean kids didn't learn.
Yeah, I know.
And if you're just not going to, if you look at a study guide and go, all right, they did the whole thing 100%. It doesn't mean they're going to do great on the test. Yeah. What I want you to do is great on the test. I want you to have mastery over what we're doing. This is just a simple tool to get you there.
Yeah, I get it.
So I don't grade practices, right? It's like you don't get your scrimmage in football doesn't affect your record, right? Yeah. Because we're running the play to see how you did. Now, when we get to the game, y'all better have it on point, right? Because that's how we roll. All right.
There's tons more questions, which I hate leaving.
I'm so sorry to leave you, but I do have a lot. I have mentor calls the rest of the day. If you need a mentoring session, hit us up, man. We charge for them, but it's another thing that people get their schools to pay for, right? Your school has no problem giving stipends out to folks at your school that may or may not be coaching you correctly or even at all. They could just send a portion of that to me, and I'd be more than happy to jump on a call for you, go through your specific issues, write up what we're talking about, send it to your admin so they know what we're talking about and that they're getting value out of this. It is something we do all the time. If you need the classroom management thing, you'll see the
put it in.
All right, so it's in there. And if you're watching this later, I'll put the link in the description as soon as I'm done doing this below. And it will be, if you're listening to this on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, it'll be in the description box as well. So if you need that. That's it. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Cool, gang. We'll see you next week. Have a great week. Peace.